Hi, my name's Carolia from the Yoga Lunchbox, and today I'm here with Les Leventhal from Yoga with Les. And Les came to New Zealand for Wanderlust Great Lake Taupo 2016, and he's coming back again in June. So I have the great fortune of interviewing him. Welcome, Les.
Hi, Carolia. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
I'm sure everyone is awesome. Now, you have a fantastic hook to your yoga stories, sort of, rise to yoga teaching. To summarize, I've made a few notes here. You've come from being a sex worker and a drug addict and being in the porn industry to now teaching yoga worldwide at all kinds of festivals like Wanderlust. Is that sort of, in a nutshell, the story?
Yeah, if you needed to make it really quick and short and simple, which is a little bit about what that prior industry was. Yeah, all of that, I think very much like yoga, it came from a place of need and want
Mm,
and desire. And I needed food, I needed shelter. There was definitely a time where I needed attention and love, and I was brought up in a way that it just appeared, again, it could have just been a complete illusion, that everything that I was going to need in life to be happy was going to be from some outside source. And that
mm,
was going to come from, it just seemed like food, shelter, money, love to me. I don't like I've never done this piece of digging. So funny this just came up. Love to me always felt like it had. I always look at like what is the seed and the source.
hmm
Love in my seed and source, if I dig, felt like that would come from sex. I don't know where that came from, uh, but that's what I pursued
mm.
as a child and a teenager and a young adult and into my adult years. And then I found yoga.
Mm.
My dogs want to participate.
So you were like about 17 when you ran away from the East Coast and took a plane ticket and took a plane over to LA and literally arrived in LA with no money and nowhere to stay and no roof over your head. Does that when you look back on your 17-year-old self, does that seem absolutely crazy?
Completely crazy. That period of 48 hours
Yeah.
of planning those last moments of going, getting to the airport, making sure, uh, keeping my mouth shut so no one knew where I was going, what I was doing 100%,
Mm.
and plotting and planning as much as I could. I mean, I had so much, I guess, bravado back then to just sort of be like, I'm going to go here, and I'm like blind faith trust that I'm going to be taken care of in some way. And looking back at that guy, I, I I mean, people think I live this big, ginormous, crazy, do so much stuff life, but I look at that particular night, and I think that was like a huge risk
Yeah.
in just not knowing where I was gonna sleep. I had $26 in my pocket,
Yeah.
and the bag over my shoulder, I think this is in the book, is all filled with my hair products. You know, I was a bleach blonde back then. I didn't care about clothes because I was already sort of coming from that place of the sex piece, that all I had in my bag was a very skimpy pair of shorts, because I thought I don't know how I had that information. Like, it's such a bizarre, like, I couldn't fit those two pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
But that was my first night that I can very much recall doing whatever I needed to do in order to have food and shelter. And it was scary because up to that point, I was very much used to getting everything and anything that I wanted, not through being honest, but through lots of lying, cheating, and stealing. And I remember walking up to the bar and trying to get in and being stopped by the doorman. And I had fake ID, and he was like, "This doesn't fly here, sorry." And that was like my first experience with like complete rejection. Like, oh, my plan is about to be altered, and I didn't have a plan B.
Mm.
Like, I didn't have any other, like, my thing was walk into a bar, find someone, that smiled in a way that said nothing more than, I can take care of you tonight.
Mm.
And I was like, what am I going to do now? So, yeah, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago. It's amazing to even say that,
And
to still be alive.
you didn't just survive though. You've thrived. You know, you've taken those experiences because not. I mean, lots of people have these experiences, but they don't necessarily walk the full arc as such and come out the other side. You were in the underground. You walked the underground as such. So when did you? Was yoga the first thing that started to take you out of that darkness as such?
No, the first thing I would like to say, yes, that would be like but no, it really, what first took me out was a good friend. I was living in LA and he was in San Francisco, and he dragged me out and said, you just need to get a regular 9 to 5 job, and you need to find a little bit of recovery. And so I found recovery programs first.
Mm-hmm.
For a few years, and then I felt very educated by those programs and decided I could go back to doing many of the things that I was doing, drugs and alcohol. And I went back out for 3 years, and it was in the middle of those 3 years that I found yoga. And I it was a weightlifting buddy. He was like, we should stretch. We never stretch. And it was at a gym, and I was looking at everybody I was like, I'm not like, no, this is looks very woo woo. And it's like, the clothing's not things that I wear, and no, I can't this and that. And no, this isn't me. I'm Mr. Tough Guy, and I have a very thick skin, and you could scratch me forever and you're not going to reveal or uncover or discover anything. And but he convinced me to try it. And so I was like, okay. So we went one day, and it was a teacher who had just finished her anaphorist teacher training. So in a gym, we're doing like Uddiyana Bandha, Agnisara, Nauli, which I still can't do 16 years later. And I was like, this is ridiculous and bizarre. Never coming back. And the instructor even said, you weightlifting guys are like so fun to work with because you're looking for flexibility and your egos are driving you so forcefully. And it'll be really nice to watch you relax someday. Of course, my attitude was like, who does she think she is? I'm like, don't talk to me like that. And the gym floor was cold. It was dirty. The mats were disgusting. And then we lay down for Shavasana. And I started crying. And I had this moment of complete, I know. I was
First
like,
class.
Yeah. And all I could think about was, okay, I'm in a gym. There's lots of glass windows. There's a lot of guys outside that I want to date. They can't see me crying. What's happening here? What's going on? This is not okay. And so I gathered my stuff after class, and I got out of the gym, and I went and sat in my car, and I was like, it was like big squish moment. And I was like, what's happening? And I didn't know what was happening. But what I knew was I felt something calming, relieving about letting go and surrendering something that was just very much a bunch of tension and anxiety, which is everything I was ever looking from drugs and alcohol to do for me. And so I had this moment of, wow, I can actually drive home right now, and I don't have to worry about getting arrested for being under the influence of anything. Like, this is really amazing moment for me.
You're under the influence of yoga.
And so I went back, and I went back, and I went back, and I went back. And then I remember doing a workshop at Yoga Tree in San Francisco, and I can't remember who it was with. It was some visiting teacher. But I remember thinking, wow, there's more to just coming to a 90-minute class. And that was another moment which was like unbelievable. And then someone introduced me to Anna Forrest, and I was like, wow, this is totally insane. Here is a woman who is completely telling me to go into everything that was dark, and a word that I love very much right now is dank, areas of my life, that were the things that my mother and father would say, you never, ever, ever, ever talk about these things. You take them to your grave. And here's a woman in a room full of 100 people saying, tell everybody, right here in front of everybody, stand up, be honest, and heal the trauma, heal the abuse, and make peace with it. I was like, am I allowed to do that? Like, am I allowed to have freedom? I thought, oh, okay. So I hung out with Anna for a while, for sure. And then the piece for me about yamas and niyamas, my very first exposure to yama niyama was with Janet Stone and Rusty Wells. And we were down on a little island called Isla Mujeres off of Cancun on a retreat. And someone said something, and we were at breakfast, and I asked Janet, what are those? And she went out and listed what they are and what this is. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. That reminds me a little bit about the steps in recovery. Mm-hmm. And then I had this, that I know. I had that moment. I was like, oh, recovery, yoga. We're all one. It's all the same. What's the difference? Why am I trying to separate myself from everybody and say, oh, I'm different than you? And if you knew my story and, you know, even though I put myself in those situations, what the other people, men, did to me, then you would, you know, behave the way I did. You'd talk to people. You'd treat people. And I kept hearing Janet's voice, yama niyama, yama niyama. It is how you treat others, but don't forget how to treat yourself. And I was like, okay. So I got back into recovery, and I just celebrated 15 years clean and sober, April 20th. So I'm really,
congratulations.
I was really jazzed about it. Thanks. It was a very emotional day for me. It was crazy, and but in a really humbling way.
So when you got into yoga and back as a weightlifter, you were still using alcohol and drugs at the time. How much longer did you continue to use while you were practicing yoga? Was there and this is because I'm interested in this, I've interviewed Lucas Miles on this and my own journey as well. Like, I was using drugs and alcohol when I started yoga, and it seems that there's a natural shift. You're doing yoga and then the drugs and alcohol start getting in the way of the yoga and you start choosing the yoga. How did it happen for you? Like, that shift, was it gradual or was it like a certain point in time?
Gradual for me, but there was a pivotal moment where there was a class I like to go to on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and the teacher asked me, what do you do on Saturday nights? And I was like, I go out. Like, we go out, that's what we do. Yeah, we party, like, that's our gig, come on. And he's like, have you ever thought about staying home? Because you like to do dinner and a movie with Joe, my partner of 16 years. And I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, so do dinner and a movie at home and then don't go to the club afterwards and get a good night's sleep and come to yoga and see how that feels. And I tried that. I thought, I'm going to experiment. And I wasn't exhausted before class. I didn't feel struggling during class. And when class was over, I didn't feel like I needed to get out of there because I was just so drained and had nothing to even, if anyone said, hey, wasn't that a great class or how are you feeling? I'd be like, And I remember one Sunday, people were like, hey, we're going for breakfast. Do you want to come with us? I was like, what? Because I was that guy. I'd roll up my mat. I was out of there. I couldn't let you know I was having this, what I call a spiritual experience. And really, that was part of my spiritual awakening, for sure. It was definitely weaved into my recovery program that was gifted back to me. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to do a little bit less. Because my weekends were really time off from drugs and alcohol. So that meant Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So towards the end of that 3-year research program, I was daily using. And so gradual. I was like, okay. And then just a moment where I thought, I had a big debauchery down in Palm Springs at a big circuit party. And I couldn't do yoga that whole week. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get out of bed. And I really missed yoga. and I really wanted to go to yoga. And I had my fingers and toes and hands and feet were pretty numb and tingling. My ears were ringing. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to do yoga again. I'm never going to lift weights again. I'm not going to do aerobics again or run or bike or anything. And that was a big moment for me to think that I had done so much to my body that I was taking away the thing at the time, which was so, I mean, it had who I was as a person inside was enough. For me, it was what I looked like on the outside, and that had to be maintained looking a certain way in order to feel like I was enough.
Mm.
That was the moment for me. That's when I got back in recovery. That's when I started going to yoga. And I had a teacher, when I started going to yoga more, is I had a teacher. So I was that guy. I would like a place called Pete's Coffee, which I still drink. Just drink some here in Bali. I was very happy about that. But I would do a double shot of espresso. I'd go lift weights for a couple of hours. And then I jumped in a yoga class. And it said, if you're looking at like buying in some of these poses, maybe stop lifting weights every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
What? What? No. He said, just try it. It's an experiment. And so that's been a key word that I've heard from lots of teachers. It's an experiment. Just check it out. You know, instead of, like in recovery, we talk about contempt prior to investigation. Mm-hmm. As a teacher, I see this all the time. Like, I'll describe a pose or I'll demonstrate a pose. You can see people's faces like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And it's like, have you tried it before? No. Well, how do you know you can't do that? That was me. Like, I can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. I won't be given permission to do that. It looks like too much fun. It looks like freedom. And so I stopped lifting weights a couple of days a week. And all of a sudden I found myself getting more flexible. And all of a sudden I found myself really like craving more yoga. I was like, oh, this is something bigger than just trying to put my foot behind my head.
So one thing I'm curious about too here is that for those of us that have we all have addictive tendencies, right? Did you find that as you gave away the drugs and the alcohol and the sex, you know, as a method of love, etc., did you find that you transferred your addictive tendencies into yoga practice?
There was a bridge. And I have to be honest what that bridge was. Krispy Kreme donuts was my bridge. And I could put a dozen away easily, no problem. Every Friday night, we would, everyone would finish work. We'd go to a 6 p.m. meeting. We'd all go to dinner. And then 9:30, we'd all caravan down to Krispy Kreme, which was really close to my house in San Francisco. And Joe knew we were going every Friday. And he would always say the same thing. He's like, can you just bring one or two home for me? I was like, I'll try. It was really hard work, really hard work. And then absolutely yoga became my new addiction. And here's how I have the evidence for that. I started going to yoga more than I was going to meetings. And I felt like yoga is so spiritual and it's this and it's this. And so in recovery, we talk about that's the number one priority. And I get to do all these other things because I stay clean and sober. And because I'm that guy who wanted to make everything else help heal me, because I didn't really want to work the steps. Because I was like, I'm a little different. And again, my story is a little different. And I just had so many, if you knew my whole story and how I really feel, kind of very always super dramatic about it all. And I got the lesson because I almost went back out again. And I had a very great man come into my life who said, like, this is what's going on. And he called me on my poop. He really called me on my stuff. And he's like, if you go back out, you're going to end up dead. And it seems like you're finally figuring out that you're enjoying having a life a little bit. So check that out a little bit more. That saved my life. That was, I think I was clean again about 2 years when that happened. So that was probably around 2003.
But you stayed clean at that point. You didn't go back out. So when did you get into teaching yoga then? So that we're talking about 2003. When did the teaching start to arise?
So I think it was around then that I started, because I started actually doing some work with this guy, and he told me my job at the bank was going to be a key to me staying clean and sober. And what he meant by key was I had to quit that job
So you were
because he
working at
said
a
that job
bank.
was yeah, I was leasing aircraft engines to South American Airlines.
So that's where you went, because you did work in the porn industry for a while when you were in your late teens, early 20s, right? And then you went from that into banking,
Yeah,
right? And then so
yeah,
you had to leave banking to stay clean. I love how he says that. And that's when you started looking at, well, what am I going to do if I leave banking?
yeah. What am I going to do with my life? What's going to happen? What, like, I have no idea. I don't like, I've always been in a sales job, I've said. But I was like, oh yeah, I get that sales is kind of killing me. And I was very fortunate. I made a lot of money at the bank.
Banking's good like that.
And banking's good like that. And what recovery taught me is that if I just trust, and for me, it's about God and a higher power. If I just trust, like to look at my life and all the evidence that had been mounted against my own better judgment that I was still alive, that I would be okay. And I always said, like, if I needed a job at Pete's Coffee to learn how to make espresso drinks and just do whatever, I was at that point willing. So I walked off that job. And they were shocked. They were like, "Where are you going?" "We're going to call the competition," because they wanted to know if I was going to be taking all my business to another bank. And I was like, "I'm just quitting." And they didn't get it. I was like, "I'm saving my life. I'm saving my life." And I was supposed to take a year off. And I quit in early 2005. And I was kind of looking at teacher trainings just to kind of, not so much to teach, but just to kind of go do something for a month. And so I ended up picking Anna, and I did the training. And I remember the
Did she kick
first
your butt? Like, was it? Yeah.
day, it was the day would start like, Anna, F you. And the end of the day was always like, oh, Anna, thank you so much. Like, I can't even believe we did that much in 10 hours. How did you do
Yeah.
that?
What a gift.
End of the first, yeah, an amazing gift. And the end of the first week, I thought, do I want to teach yoga? End of the second week, I was like, I want to teach. End of the third week, I was like, I'm a teacher. It was like, I'm a teacher. I teach yoga. And I was just a few months out of the bank. So when I drove home from that teacher training, I called the studio in San Francisco where I practice yoga. I'm like, hey, I'm certified. I might be certifiable too, but I'm certified. I want a job. They were like, yeah, you and about 1,000 other people. I'm like, yeah, but I heard the 6 a.m. classes, the teacher quit, and everyone who's been signing up to sub isn't showing up. I'm a morning person. I'll do it. They're like, we don't hire people right out of teacher trainings. And I was like, you are losing money.
Salesman. Salesman.
I know. So insane. And guess what? They bought it. They bought it. And I
So you
taught, and
started
I was teaching
teaching.
every day, 6 a.m. And then people started calling for subs, and I started teaching 3-4 classes a day. And I was subbing, I was teaching. And Anna said this amazing thing. She said, if you feel a little boring in your teaching, imagine what your students, doggy love, imagine what your students are feeling. If you're feeling boring in your teaching. And I didn't really have a home practice. And she said, if you're bored in your teaching, you need a home practice. And a student came up to me I was teaching about 5-6 weeks. And she said, is this all you teach? Do you always teach this formula? And what I heard was, I like your classes, but I'm bored. Yeah. I was flattened, but it was another great yoga and recovery moment, because it was information to take in that was humbling, that I could do something about. And it wasn't from something I did, which was humiliating. It was from me making an effort to do something, So that was another great pivotal moment for me where I thought, okay, I got feedback. I don't have to run away like I'm the piece of caca the universe has been stepping on all my life, and I could do something. So I found my home practice,
So
and it was
you weren't
fun.
practicing. I'm curious about this. You weren't practicing before you went to teacher training at home,
Oh no, at home, no,
but you were going lots of
no,
yeah. And so,
lots of class.
had it ever occurred to you to practice at home beforehand? Because I'm always interested about this part of people's journey as well. Just didn't even come up.
No, I'm
This
busy
thought,
at home.
like it.
Why would I
So
do that?
okay, but no one none of the teachers when you were teaching classes ever said to you, develop a home practice, or this is why we practice at home, or okay, all
Maybe
right. So
I didn't
now
hear.
you didn't hear it, yeah. So now, how did things shift for you when you started practicing at home?
When I first started practicing at home, it was for you because I thought I need new sequences. So I had my mat, I had my pen, I had my paper. I was a little bit too tight about my music and where my standing sequence needed to fit in and the energy of the music and where the arc and the peak of that was and the hot part and the peak sequences and where the warm down was and what songs were good for that and the words I wanted to infuse and wisdom in all that and then the cool down and I'd have the Shavasana song that made you feel like you just like did a whole syringe full of heroin and I had to have all that stuff. It was just so my home practices were like a good 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And it was insane. It was good though. It was great. And then I never, I would make playlists and I would practice to them. I would never make a playlist and then just like go right to class. I always practice and be like, okay, that needs some editing, that needs some fixing. This is not quite right. This. And then I would take them to class and I would be like, okay, that didn't actually fit so well. And I'd take them back. And then someone asked me down the road a little bit, do you practice before you teach? And I said, always. I was like, aha. See, you try and
Damn.
catch me. And they said, yeah. And they're like, are you always thinking about your students when you practice? I'm like, oh, absolutely. And they said, stop that.
Bye.
When am I going to get this right? Like, I'm trying to fit in, and feel good about what I'm doing.
But there is no
And
right,
they
is
said, don't
there?
forget. Yeah. And this person said, don't forget that you found teaching yoga because you were a passionate student. So don't miss out on continuing to be a student. So not only have your home practice, but go to classes once in a while. And I was like, oh yeah, I love going to classes. So now I can spot a teacher who has no home practice and or doesn't go to classes anymore. Because they're teaching the same. Now there are some methods of yoga that it is the same sequence over and over. And I've definitely been that person where I've needed that structure. I thought I can't deviate from a plan. But if I go to a class and I know the next pose, if I know the whole sequence, if I know exactly what someone's going to say next, then I know. And a lot of times it's people get busy. Some people get really busy. Some people don't have the freedom that I have where I just teach yoga. Some people are still holding down full-time jobs at a bank. Some people have this other crazy responsibility called kids. I can barely figure out how to handle my dogs. Like, if my kids could talk, my dogs could talk and said, give me money. And yeah, I stole your car keys because I had to go out last night. Like, that'd be a whole other level of yoga. I don't know how I would handle.
So once you began practicing at home and then practicing for yourself again,
Yeah.
how did that feel? Like just you and your mat for you.
Complete freedom. Complete freedom in that everything didn't have to be like, I did it exactly this way on the right side. It has to be exactly this on the left side with the same breath counts. And I found out that I talk about diversity a lot because there's so much diversity in the world. And along with that, unfortunately, comes so much judgment because people are scared. What if what you choose to do and who you are as a person is really okay? So I don't have to look outside myself. there are certain parts of my body on the right side that are much more flexible and strong, and there are different parts on my left side that have that same thing. And like my right hamstring loves splits. My left hamstring could be bothered. My left hip's much more open than my right, so my left foot goes behind my head super easy. I could chant that way. My right hip's like, go away, not happening. So if I can accept that in my own body, it made my home practice super playful. And it meant that it's like, I actually think I forgot what happened on the right side. Because that happens when I teach sometimes. And I'll even call out. Now he's like, it's like the imposter syndrome. The yoga police are going to come say, oh my God, you forgot the second side. You're out. Your registration, we're yanking it. Don't bother sending your dues to Yoga Alliance anymore. That's a whole other interview. Anyway. So good. They care. They're trying. We all care. We're all trying.
Everybody
right?
cares.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk, because I'm mindful of time, and we've probably got about 5 minutes left. You're coming back to New Zealand. I'm super stoked. So you're coming to Auckland and you're coming to Wellington. Tell me about what you're going to deliver and why you're juiced to do this.
I'm so juiced to do it because I had such an amazing time at Taupo. Such a welcoming community about everything, and it was just, again, a humbling experience that so many people said, please come back, do workshops. And so Jess Neff, who is my manager, I said, listen, I can't handle all these different invitations. What an amazing gift. I need you to sort through all this, and I'm going to let you decide like what the best direction is for me, and hopefully the communities will come together. And it seems like that has happened and is great. Everything that I do, which is going to be, I'm going to do a master class and hips and twists and arm balancing inversions and some back bends and some similar things to what we did in Taupo, but I get more time. Yeah. So I get to break things down, and I can really infuse the yamas and the niyamas and how we treat others and the effect that has on our relationships, and how we treat ourselves and the effect that has on our relationships. And this beautiful piece, what's become really sweet for me, is that there are times where I'm going to honor the yamas and how I treat others, and I'm going to violate and compromise what I need to be doing for myself. And there'll be other times where I need to really do a bit of guarding and protecting, and it could be about my emotional sobriety. It could be I might get triggered by something. And I'm going to honor those niyamas and taking care of myself. And in so doing, without even recognizing through my selfishness, I'm going to violate the yamas and what's happening and how that affects other people. What I get to do today and what I'm most connected with in yoga is we don't have to see the same direction and accept things the same way. Like, I'm watching the craziness of the election in the United States right now, and I'm not attached to who you vote for. I just want you to vote. And there's this thing about, if this isn't the person, then I'm not even going to vote at all. It's like, no, let your voice be heard. So my thing with yamas and niyamas is that we can disagree. You can come to me and say, whoa, that really hurt, and was your intention to hurt? And I can say, no, this was my intention, this was what I was thinking, this is the information I had, and we can stay connected to each other. Because people's fuses are so short around the world right now with everything, and the moment there is miscommunication, misunderstanding, disagreement, people are like, I am so finished, unfriend. And it's like, ouch. Like, that's the world I came from. And yeah, I like to say it as, I came from that world when there was answering machines. Some of you listening and watching this interview are too young to know what that means. But there was this little box, and you could actually just stare at the box and hear the person's voice like, I'm so not picking up that call. Oh, no. And just stand there and judge. And I'm like, no, that's the wrong tone of voice. I'm not picking up this call. And instead, I want to like remove that box, and that I want to remove this. Look, I love social media. I love everything about technology. It's moving so incredibly fast. that it's the yoga practice that helps slow us down. And it's just even like us on Skype. Like there's some eye to eye contact. And so it's something. And people are communicating through social media and deciding no and then blocking. And it's like, so, and it's interesting too, because now yoga is moving online a lot. And I like it, but I struggle with it. And so people are like, why don't you do more online stuff and you won't have to travel as much? I'm like, it kind of goes against who I am. I would like to have online stuff so that people can access it when they can't get to a yoga center. But I like to sit with people. And I'm going to deliver, if there's 2 people in class at a workshop or 200 like at Taupo, I'm going to deliver that same message. Like whoever is there, I feel their energy and share that. And yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait. I'm very excited. And I just saw where I'm staying in Wellington. And I'm super excited about that. It looks like some old little fort thing. I forget what it's called, the point or the house or the something like that. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, thank you, Wellington folks, for connecting that.
Well, thank you,
so
Liz.
A lot of laughter.
Thank you, Liz.
And some tears.
And some tears. Well, yeah, I mean, it's yoga, right? Who knows what kind of tears come out on the mat. Thank you for taken the time to do this interview from Bali with the roosters crowing and the dogs barking and the Wi-Fi going a little bit like this. Such a pleasure to connect with you more and to hear your story and where you're coming from as a teacher. So just to close, can you tell people where to find you online or in Bali and the name of your book as well?
Oh, yeah. All right. So my book is called 2 Lifestyles, 1 Lifetime. You can find that either in ebook or hard copy through my website, which is yogawithless.com, or you can just go right to Amazon and type in 2 Lifestyles, 1 Lifetime or Les Leventhal. Website's yogawithless.com. My Twitter is Yoga with Les. My Instagram is Yoga with Les. Facebook is Les Leventhal Yoga or just Les Leventhal. And what else if people want to connect with me? If you've got questions, you can send me an email. If I'm traveling like I do a lot, it can take me a few days to get back. If it's for teacher training stuff and workshops related, it's always Jess who's going to get back to someone. But there's always lots of ways to get in touch with me. And please come join us in Wellington and Auckland. We'd love to see you.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And my dog said goodbye too.